I farm in communities, in communal land. The reason why there's hunger at communities, like people have a big backyard, but then they are not using them. And then ever since the SASA grant came back in the days with our old parents, most of the farms in the village were no longer utilized. So, and then it's so painful now because us young farmers who are trying to utilize that land, we are being stopped by the very same parents.
A person would rather go and look for work where they wear a tie and call that a good profession, either than feed themselves from the soil. It's true, and until we destigmatize these type of things, we will be able to speak pure English, yet we'll be hungry. We will wanna wear Louis Vuittons, yet we will be hungry.
The youth of today, as we call them, Mama 2000, you know, what's mostly interesting to them is Instagram, TikToks, and all these other platforms that they've got, but they forget which there's also Google search where you can also be provided with information online and learn certain things, gain certain information, etc. online and know more about farming, etc.
We're not gonna fix the food insecurity by giving out more handouts. It's by raising more farmers.
So into the next panel, we are going to be talking about food security. Do we have all panelists up on stage? So we are just going to wait for all the panelists to come on stage so that we can start. But I'm just going to give you a brief overview on what food insecurity is. And it's something that we are battling with in South Africa. So food insecurity remains one of South Africa's most pressing challenges. According to Statistics South Africa 2023, more than 20% of households experienced hunger and child malnutrition. Rates remain alarming. Youth unemployment, currently at 46.1%, worsens the crisis as millions of young people are unable to secure sustainable incomes. Organizations such as Lima Rural Development, Farm in the City, and Salam Foundation have stepped in with the community-led projects to fight food insecurity, but the scale of the challenge remains that much more is needed. So despite these efforts, the scale of the problem means that more coordinated support is obviously needed. Young farmers and emerging agripreneurs have the potential to contribute significantly to the food security, but they require access to land, resources, markets, and funding. So today, our panelists and I are going to dive into the causes of food insecurity and how we can almost combat that. So, to the panel, what are the main causes of food insecurity in South Africa, and how are young people and emerging farmers affected by this? Just introduce yourself as well as you start. I think we can start at the end. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm Professor Naudé Malan from UJ Soweto Business Management. So, I disagree with the Jedi. 60% of all the food in South Africa is fed to animals. We can stop food insecurity tomorrow. Because it's about diet. So, it's one of the ways in which, I'm so sorry, I disagree with the Jedi, but we often hear these things and they sound right, but they ain't true. So we get pressured into producing, whereas we already produce more than enough to feed everyone in the country. The problem is the animals eat the food and we produce the animals because we rather want to eat meat than the legumes or the beans. So there's a lot of these things that if you are a farmer, you must be much more vigilant. there's a lot of things that I heard today that is just not going to help the farmers. For instance, why would it be that you must have a lot of money to farm? If I look at the bush and the forests, it's never been fertilized, it's never been irrigated, but the trees are much bigger than in the city. So what's going on here? So actually what is going on is that you guys are being presented one kind of farming, the very capital intensive, commercial kind of farm. And if you are going to deliver to the fresh produce market that's going to pay you 5 cents a kilogram, you can only make it if you do have a few thousand hectares. So there's a lot of things that are a little bit uncomfortable for me. The first thing is that you can produce without the money, without all these things. So the way it works is that generally a commercial farmer relies on inputs, seeds, fertilizers, mechanization, labor. So they need 1 million rand to produce 1,030,000. And they all make about 3% profit. So that is what it is. You have to spend 1 million to make 30,000. And that is the kind of farming that is often promoted amongst smaller farmers. But I'm telling you, that's not true. You don't have to farm like that. We have developed at Izindaba Zokudla at the University of Johannesburg farming techniques which rely on the gathering of waste and the biological processing of waste. And I can tell you now, if you have 2 strong hands, you can farm with 0 money. In fact, the world's biggest farming movement is found in India. It's more than 500 million farmers, and it's called zero budget natural farming. So we come to South Africa, what do we get? Eish, I'm sorry, I disagree with the Jedi. We are being told that you can only farm if you supply to the fresh produce market. Meanwhile, right behind us sits a market of 1 million people. And they all, last time I checked, they all eat 3 times a day. And most of them buy from spaza shops, which are bigger than Checkers. So why are we telling you to produce for the fresh and formal markets? Guys, you are missing the boat. It's not going to help if you do what we tell you. It's not going to help until you realize that it is your analysis of the market, your knowledge of how you can produce, that determines your choices, not the choices we give you. But it is you that must go find and fetch it. And equip yourself, learn how to produce without the chemicals, without the capital costs, without the mechanization. You know what? You're going to do a lot better. Thank you.
Yes, please. Would we like to respond to that? Musa, do you have anything to respond to that before we move on? Thank you so much, Prof. That was very, very true.
Yeah. He actually, but in Zulu, he hit the nail. It's actually true. I believe that the biggest cause of lack of food insecurity is the fact that how we've been programmed as a people, how we look at farming. A person would rather go and look for work where they wear a tie and call that a good profession, other than feed themselves from the soil. It's true, and until we destigmatize these type of things, we will be able to speak pure English, yet we'll be hungry. We will wanna wear Louis Vuittons, yet we will be hungry. I'm a director at Emuseni Foundation, and I've started farming for myself substantially and started selling. But I also realized that with the people that we feed 100 people Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays in our organization. And as I've said earlier on my keynote, that we're not gonna fix the food insecurity by giving out more handouts. It's by raising more farmers. You don't have to be a farmer because you have millions. You can farm your little produce at home. You no longer have to buy the spinach. You no longer have to buy the potatoes. You no longer have to. Most of the money that consumers or in our communities spend, they spend on food. That's the truth. They said a bucket that is needed to preserve a family costs around 4,000 rands. 5,000 rands actually. But the minimum wage is below 4,000 rand. So if we are gonna fix farming at all, it's through communal farming. That is what Emuseni Foundation is doing. It is in realizing the fact that many people may want to farm, but they don't have the know-how. And even people who do want to farm, consistency isn't there. Maybe if we come together, not commercially, if we come together as a people with a particular purpose of eradicating hunger in our communities, maybe we can go somewhere. Because we have become so capitalized in the sense of we just want to make money. Okay, look guys, money is important. I'm an entrepreneur. I sell each and every day, robustly so. You see, if you see me selling, you'll hey, this guy. But I believe that in building our communities, it's more than just money. You see, if we can start by the communal farming in which we have started. One other thing I say is the mindset. It's because when we started the communal farming, we gave them access to land, and I also give them seeds in which I outsource from my various stakeholders. Out of the 20, can I tell you what? Only 10 is left now. It's not that the other 10 that left does not have food. They don't have food really, but they're not going to come and farm. They only came 1 day, 2 days. On the third day, they're no longer coming. Why? It's the mindset, guys. We need to destigmatize our mindset. When we look at farming, most of us, and these are the truths within the society, and even our parents used to tell it to us. When you think of farming, they say, it's always discouraged. Am I lying? Am I lying? Farming has always been discouraged within the black community. We look down on it so much, yet we eat 3 times a day. So I believe in the changing of the mindset, in the destigmatization of the mindset, rather than going and buying in Woolies. When you believe that the spinach you produce is not as superior as the one in Woolworths, tell me if I'm lying. The other thing is, instead of communal farming, we need to look at how money rotates within our communities. I believe it ties to food insecurity. Money does not rotate within the black community. It does not. We receive money, our parents receive money, and the first place we take it is to check us to Pick and Pay. It goes outside the country, outside our communities. Then we are left and trapped within the poverty. But what if, and this is just my dream, what if I was a spinach producer, she was a maize meal producer, he was a meat producer within the community of Proteatland, and we are the ones supplying Proteatland as people within the community, then money can circulate amongst us. But now this is what happens, exactly what one of the speakers said earlier. We farm here, we take it to the Joburg, then it comes back here. Where do we think that all these all these vegetables that we buy from these large retailers, where do they come from? Where do they find them? Who are the workers within those farms? It's our people. So it means you are going to work on a particular farm. You are sowing, you are working very hard. You are getting paid. Your produce goes to Pick and Pay. And then you are going to go to Pick and Pay again and go and buy. Then you come back and say, I don't have money. Do you see how it is? I believe it is in the mindset. And for as long as you don't believe that your little garden at home can feed you and substantiate you as an individual, then you will remain poor. Amen.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Siphakamise Ngobhane. I work for Lima Rural Development Foundation as one of the managers in Limpopo. My director was here earlier as well. So I think to get back to your question as well, I think they've said it all, but I think as well it's very, very important and key that we go back in the way that we're doing things back in the days. I think I had the opportunity that I grew up in rural areas and where I was raised by my grandfather who used to own a lot of livestock, and also we at some time, I think on a certain days on Wednesday, you will go and take animals to the dip and you'll end up arriving late at school. But it's something that they understand, the teachers back then. But the point of saying that it's, I think at some point, we've lost the values and also the important things. I think I won't say blame technology. It's good that we move with technology, but I think also some other thing we don't have to modernize them when it comes to agriculture, because we grew up whereby we're planting maize and they were doing a lot of things, and we never buy a lot of things from the shops, so-called all the retail shops. But because we're growing these things, and all of a sudden we're this generation that arrives now and they change the whole thing and they feel like, no, farming is boring. Farming is what, of which I think at this point in time, we can always come with the good initiatives that they're always going to attract people back to the farming. Also, as for example, we've got some areas that it's very difficult for them to access land. And Joburg, I think it's one of them because it's one of the smallest provinces that I know. But we've got a lot of initiatives that you can do on farming. One of them, you introduce something called hydroponics, whereby no one has knew that you will grow vegetables on a water. You don't need land. So those are the initiatives as well that that may assist. They can come up in terms of assisting on a food security. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very powerful, and something we can really consider and think about, especially in South Africa. So how can community-based initiatives, NGOs and universities play a bigger role in addressing this hunger that we have?
My name is Vusi Mtshali. I come from Wild Impact. Basically, I'm sitting here representing, the outside areas. They're mostly the rural areas, where there's lack of obviously skills, lack of schooling. I had my colleague here mentioned very unique important information, and already I've gained certain knowledge just by listening to the first question. But in the rural areas, it's still difficult because it's like one of those forgotten areas, where people still suffer in terms of, well, land is definitely there, but there's lack of water in that side. So for them to do something, it's quite difficult. And the challenges, obviously, will go back to capital. And when you're unemployed as well, you're unable to provide everything that we would like to do in terms of sustaining or building that food security on that side. But one thing that touches me and having the ability to travel around the country is that there is a lack in terms of education. That side, it doesn't reach them. Even if it does, I think the youth of today, as we call them, Mama 2000, what's mostly interesting to them, it's Instagram, TikToks, and all these other platforms that they've got, but they forget which there's also Google search, where you can also be provided with information online and learn certain things, gain certain information, etc., online, and know more about farming, etc. So they don't touch that, and nobody gives them the knowledge or the skills. There's no career guidance or anything happening in that. So if the universities and other stakeholders that are available could actually also remember, that there's those isolated areas within South Africa, because we could all talk big, but it's nice when you're talking commercially, when you've got your water, your funding and everything, it's all nice. But there is like those areas which don't have even skills, education, and they just run for certain whatever qualification that can bring them to gain employment somewhere. So education is the key to everything. So university just need to reach out there. Speaking of universities, I know for a fact that a number of them do not know University of Johannesburg, Wits University, UNISA, what UNISA can provide, for example, etc. So providing them with that career guidance again, it will lead them with the skills to be able to plant crops or grow something within the areas.
Good afternoon once again. I farm in communities, in communal land. The reason why there's hunger at communities, like people have a big backyard, but then they are not using them. And then ever since the SASA grant came back in the days with our old parents, most of the farms in the village were no longer utilized. So, and then it's so painful now because us young farmers who are trying to utilize that land, we are being stopped by the very same parents. Currently, when I started, I was farming on a 12 hectare. That is my parents' farm. It's a family farm. But then I asked land to extend because I'm doing potatoes. You know, potatoes you need to rotate. It takes 4 years for you to plant on the same land. So I went to the traditional authorities and asked for extension of land. They agreed, but then once they saw that I got funding, everything changed. They came and they stopped everything. Currently, I can't debush because they are stopping the TLBs. They are blocking the routes for me. So hunger is because of the mindset of our people. And this thing is happening to us black people. It's like a black thing now because they are targeting young farmers that are funded. Maybe it's because they just didn't farm and then they rely only on grants. So when they see a young farmer doing that, they fear you and then they think you are coming to take all their land, and which is not the case. What we want to do in the villages, we want to create employment. I mean, I can't farm alone. There's a lot of land, 2,800 and something hectares. I can't farm on that land alone. But then if they can use me to share knowledge to them, then we can use that land together and then fight hunger in communities.
I believe the solution to the answering the question is education, but not just at a university level, from school level. I believe agriculture should be compulsory. As much as English language is compulsory, agriculture should be compulsory. Because you can see even now that we are producing a lot of high school graduates, yet they can speak good English, they can solve for X, but they can't grow their own food. For me, it's working backwards. Not to say that every other thing is irrelevant. Yes, we need mechanical engineers, yes, we need, but for me, I believe we need to be educated more on the land. And I'll speak about this as a child born within the generation post-liberation, the first of our kind. We have not been taught the importance of the land, let alone the importance of working the land. We can even see it embedded in the prefixes of our languages. When we speak the Nguni language, land is in par with human life. Land is in par with air you breathe. I'll give you an example, guys. When you refer to umuntu omdala, your parent, you would say umama, right? Ubaba. When you talk about a thing, you would say land or lena or anything other than that. But when you also talk about the land, umhlaba, which means it holds a certain level of significance. Now, once we are educated on the significance of the land, then maybe only then we can find the significance of working the land and feeding ourselves. We need to understand that we are here where we are and we think the way we think about farming because of what we've been taught this far. Everything else is compulsory at school, but not this. Now, how do NGOs combat this? As people who work with the communities, we have access to people who are willing to listen, people who are already suffering. I believe one thing we can do is highlight the problem that we have. Let's not run away from it. Let's highlight it. But the problem of hunger is caused by what? Our mindset. There we go. Let us fix that. Let us change our outlook on how we look at land, our relationship with land. She said something very important. Many of our parents who moved from Soweto and got better jobs and moved to that other side, they get large yachts, big yachts, but they go still buy food. Okay, why do you have such a big space if you are not using it? That's not in fashion. We do not want that. So for as long as we do not destigmatize our mind, we can have the land, we can have the seeds, we can have access to everything that's plenty. But how you look at it, your perception of it, determines how you are going to use that particular thing. So I believe universities, NGOs have a responsibility to educate people, but it should start from primary and like as early as possible. Yeah, that's what I can say.
Thank you once more. I think it's to also answer your question. I think what the most important thing that we're also missing out here, the role that should be played by the NGOs and the department and whoever on the ground. I think we know for the fact that not all the village that we come from, we've got a capability or a potential to produce potatoes. Some other villages, based on the availability of the land, of course, they can divest to livestock, of which is a good thing. But I think at Lima we've got another tool that we're definitely using and we feel like it's working in the rural areas that we work on. There is something we call PRA that we normally conduct. It's a tool that whereby you invite the community members before you can implement any project. It cannot be agriculture, it can be any project. Before you can implement, you invite the community members, you ask, we've got a questionnaire that you ask. One of the things that you're checking, okay, it's a tool that's gonna help you to know who is the gatekeeper in the area, what are the things that are being produced, who are the department, what are the schools, what are the clinics that are available, the infrastructure, the electricity. It's a long chain that's gonna definitely assist you in terms of whenever, if you plan to say, okay, we wanna do potato farming, because one of the things, Cynthia will agree with me, if you're going to be diverting to potato farming, you need a lot of land, you need a lot of water, you also need to have electricity as well. It's pointless for you to do a farming for potatoes if you don't have electricity. And also the type of electricity that you must have, it must be three-phase electricity because you're going to be using your center pivot, of which they need a three-phase. So those things, if you conduct a PRA, it's a tool that's going to help, and then you're going to know. And it can go for the fact that you know what was actually happening in the years. Why did they stop farming? And also moving forward, you check as well, what is it that they want to do? It might happen that the funder, they want to develop this certain village and plant cabbages, but for them, it's not something that they are interested on. But if you didn't do those engagements from the first place, you're going to get it wrong. You're going to loot all the people to come and do plant cabbage, or else their mind is not there. Maybe they might be interested on doing grains. Of it, I think it's also another thing that is very, very important, a role, educational role that we need to play with the NGOs and together with the department. Of course, this should be the collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you. Guys, the question was asked, what do we need to farm? And like at the end of the day, there's only one answer. The individual farmer must know what to do. It's not going to help getting together as a community. Because if no one in the community knows what to do, then we're going to all be poor together very happily. So we got to really be clear on this, because there's a lot of stories that go out. So what is the knowledge that you need? So we must understand that there are different markets. If you are aiming to produce for the fresh produce market or the commercial market, that is when you need the capital. That is when you need volumes, because they only take one layer of a pallet, and that's so little, it's not worth delivering that to the market. So if you are a farmer, be clear on where your market is. And be clear, the MEC this morning said to us, so now you produce your potatoes or whatever there in the rural areas. Now you sell it to your wholesaler. They take it from there all the way to Joburg, fresh produce market. Someone buys it there. They take your exact same produce and take it back to where you produced it. And now they sell exactly your things to your neighbors at 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, 20 times the price that you got for it. Think, is this the future that we want for Africa? There's another market, the market right next to you. Look at the spaza shops. They subvert the formal retail chain. I'm telling you, that is what you must do. If you try to engage in the formal market, you need lots of money. You need mechanization. You need more land than the lady there has. You need the right seeds, which are expensive. If you buy GMOs, it's going to cost you 5,000 Rand for 500 grams. And that's almost enough for a hectare. So think about what is the market that you want to satisfy. There's someone right next to you who will pay top retail price for fresh vegetables. Why do you send yours to Joburg? Think again. What is the market that will help you in your strategic interest? Not the strategic interest of the market, but you as an individual. You have to look after yourself before you can look after the community. What is in your strategic interest? It might be not to deliver to a formal market. We must up us for these things. There are a lot of stories out there. You must be clear on what's going on. Guys, I teach an urban agriculture enterprise development course that's focused on satisfying the local market. You can sell at the highest price to your neighbor. You must think really, really clear if you don't want to do that. And if you want to do that, your whole farming operation is going to change. It has to be small scale, maximum productivity, minimum space, integrate animals. We need the shit of the animals to go in the soil. Until that happens, nothing else is going to happen. You know, today I've heard a lot of people talk about farming. Not a single person told me how to plant a seed. So think about what you've heard today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof, and everybody else that's on the panel. Very informative. And this will be the last question. So if we're talking about the urban areas, right? How can initiatives like urban farming or farm in the city reduce hunger and provide sustainable livelihoods? And now, not just in rural, but also in urban areas.
The answer to those questions is always the same. With great difficulty. Thank you, sorry. I'm being funny. But yeah, I mean, only if the farms, and once again, remember my remark that we feed most of the food to animals. But it is about producing enough on small scale. And to do that is a very different knowledge than the commercial agricultural knowledge. So basically, you've got to bury dead trees and dead animals under the ground, and the roots of the plants must reach those things. If that doesn't happen, then you've got to go to the chemicals, and it's only 6,000 Rand per hectare minimum. I wonder who can afford that. So it's about the knowledge of biological production. If you're a small starting farmer, you must know that. Even if you are not going to use it, if you're going to use the chemicals, you must know this. And if you know this, it's going to change your life. So here's the homework. Understand permaculture. Understand organic farming. Understand regenerative farming. Go look at Siyoyisile and Ladla. Integrate animals and plants. Do it at small scale. The knowledge that you seek, the knowledge that's going to give you the liberation, is not systematized. You won't find it in a book. You will find it scattered all over the world. And that is why you are not succeeding. Because if you go into the formal system, you need the cash, the capital, you don't have it. If you go into the organic or the local regenerative system, you need the knowledge. And therefore, like, I'm just worried. If I say to you, jump in the fire, will you jump in the fire? So the only way you will not jump in the fire is if you know enough to make your own decision. And until that happens, don't listen to anyone on stage.
Would anybody else like to answer?
Yeah. On my side, also just going to be quick and short. Being here, I learned about agri-processing as one of the answers in terms of that. And I spoke to a lovely lady on the other side who also reminded me in terms of how our grandparents used to store fruits or vegetables in a jar bar, and then we get to eat that in December, you know. And when I think back, there was basically something that was planted from our own homes, our own house. So, like my colleagues said, you know, you need to start small. We can't like all go back at the same time. So, planting from home, starting small, you know, making fun activities. I've seen gardens where, you know, use tires turned into gardens and stuff like that. So, whatever that you can produce there, you can still store, you can still make jam, tomato jam. I was shocked to find things like that, you know, today. So, spices can be produced. So, the answer could be processing and obviously selling that create jobs in the urban areas as well. So whatever small scale space that you've got, you can make use of it. So I can say it's one of my learnings that I took today from being here.
So much. Once again, I'm going to open up the floor to just two questions, two very quick questions, if anybody does have. So over there and right here. Is there anybody this side? Okay, no. Oh, yeah. So 3 questions and then we're done. So the guy in the red cap, you can actually have my mic and you can come here and ask.
Great, thanks. Hi guys. Good day, panelists. I just want to know, right? Just 2 questions. Is that okay?
No.
Okay. My first question is that to Cynthia. You said that in this business, there are things that will happen that will break your heart, right? My question about that is that what kept you going?
For me, what kept me going is because for me, it's a calling. Without it, like at the moment, I feel like half of me is dead because I'm not doing what I love. You understand? So, but then I'm still fighting. Just because I'm blocked now doesn't mean this is the end of my life. I will fight and then I will make noise about this until the national level intervene on matters like this. Because as young farmers, we need land. You know, those who are staying in urban areas, you know how small the yards are. But then another thing I can say to all young farmers who want to be in farming, all our parents come from rural areas. So a call off for you to go back home and let's start utilizing that land. Because if I'm alone and I'm using that land, everybody at home feels like I'm a threat. But then if we are all going back home, because at the moment there's no longer gold in Gauteng. You understand? There are no more jobs. So we must go back home and utilize that land at home. So what keeps me going is my passion and because I want to create generational wealth. That's why I keep going, you know.
Okay, knowledge.
Lovely.
Thanks. My second question is from a business perspective, right? Where you standing as a businessman or businesswoman? What would you survey? What questions would you survey to us in order to advantage your business? A rephrase. What would you ask the people in order for you to personally grow as well?
What do you want to eat? Anything else will take away my focus on my farm. And oppas for the community.
Were you answered?
It's a growing thing, but yeah.
It's a growing thing. That is true. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Who else?
My question that I have, Uguti, Nyani on kuluma nge farming. As much as you're talking about a farming, we have what we call feces. Like sometimes feces go hand in hand with farming because there are certain crops that need farming or certain plantations that need feces. So where I'm listening, but I failed to understand. I haven't heard anyone talking about that space or that business that link with farming as it is about feces.
Battery's gone. So on this question, I rely on one of my collaborators. So right behind you, someone who is successfully transforming feces into 100 Rand a liter products. And I tell you, there's more than enough that goes around. So this is the thing. This is the key. So for the commercial approach to agriculture, there is no space for feces. But if you are thinking about a liberation agriculture that will free me, then you will know the value of feces. Everything depends on shit.
So yeah, thanks everyone, which is very good question, and then thanks Prof for that. But for it to, you can create your own NPK, that fertilizers that we need. So actually now at our farm, when you come to buy, you bring, let's say, your urine, 20 liter of urine. We give you a discount for 5 Rand for everything. And then when you bring the food waste with a 20 liter, you get a discount of what we are selling for 5 Rand. So meaning everything that we're doing with the human urine, what we do, remember, the human urine is full of acid, it's full of germs, and then it creates ammonia gas. And then when you put it to a certain tank for the minimum of 7 days, the chemical composition changes there from your acid to alkaline. Then it turns to a salt. Then it becomes, the pH level goes beyond 7. And then all the pathogenics, all the smells, they die there. And then it becomes high in your nitrogen, phosphorus, and your potassium. Then it's good for your soil. Meaning, let's go for organic farming. That's the better way to go because of we are eating shit, actually. And then this food that they are selling us from the market, they get our kids, our people sick. So let's start to create our own organic food to do everything with nature. Then let's not go for these things that they sell, and then we can create our own pesticides. We can create everything that we want. So why must we go and then the business, it's there around your community. People are buying around you. You can make about a 15 to 20,000 a month on a 10,000 square meters every month, which is very good. And then inside the urban farming, you can integrate everything. We use rabbit farming, we use piggery, we use poultry on a small space. And then it's amazing, guys. Let's start to change our mindset, as people are saying, but let's start small. That's what I can say.
Can I?
Absolutely beautiful. One last question.
So my question was partly answered. So I believe the brother who asked, we were in sync. So then I'll just take the opportunity to say thank you so much to Young Farmer Connect. This was a very amazing opportunity to learn and grow and even interact with fellow farmers. Yeah, thank you so much. But to the professor, I'm just going to lay it out there anyway. So you talk about permaculture as well as organic farming, which is something that I stand for and absolutely would like to venture into. Though there is the factor of time that can become a challenge because, the breaking down of the minerals as well as, the manure and etc. And all of this can take time. So how does one work around that? How does one overcome that challenge?
Yeah, I don't know if it's such a problem. Because if you dig a deep trench, your first year you have short, shallow-rooted crops. And then in your second year, the stuff gets broken down. And then it's all, then it's much better. So everything, that's also the thing. There's no one straight line to farming. It's not just that you just put seeds, add water, stir, give it a few clapper, and then it's all working. It doesn't work like that. You've got to plan and create the systems that will make the productivity. And actually the key thing is, for the small farmers, those who start, the key is to start with zero capital expenditure. And the only way you can do that is by using knowledge and techniques for biological. I don't want to use organic because it's something else already. For biologically based production. Then you have a profit structure in your business that relies on zero inputs but maximum profits because you're selling at highest retail level. If you don't do that and you go the commercial way, then you have to spend $1 million to make 30,000. And then you have high capex, little bit higher outputs. That's not going to work for a small farmer. It's just never going to work, even if you have land already. Keep your costs down. And it's about the dynamics of the finance in the business that changes when you get credit. Credit is the death of the farming business, small-scale farming business. So you got to make it work with nothing. And this is the most important. We've had everyone here that can help you. I'm telling you, none of them can help you until you can help yourself. So if you wait for Lima or MEC or someone to come and give you the things for your farm, you already failed. You must first go and fail and try and fail and try. When you're in that thick of things and you are struggling and it's hectic, then the help will help. But any other time, forget about it. Sorry, I talk a lot.
So we have reached the end of our panel discussion and the Young Farmer Connect. I think this was so fruitful. Thank you so much to our panelists. I think this panelist was actually supposed to go up first, but it's actually good that we left them for the end. But thank you so much, everybody, for just attending, for sharing the knowledge. I think everybody in the room absolutely does not take it for granted and doesn't take it lightly. Are we going to go and farm? Are we going to become farmers now? Because food security is something that we need to pay attention to.
Let us take a moment to extend our heartfelt thanks to the incredible partners and sponsors who made today possible.